Some all right. Let me just pull up the agenda real quick. All right. So this is everyone ready to get started?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead. I need to get the agenda up, but go ahead.
Okay, all right. So this is the Housing First Subcommittee of the Commission on Equitable Housing and Development. Meeting has now commenced. It's April 27th at 4:25 p.m. This meeting is being held virtually due to COVID-19 to allow for social distancing and to protect the public health. As we continue our efforts in meeting remotely, we ask all commissioners and guests to mute yourselves until called upon to speak to avoid feedback and background noise. For those of you who have dialed in using the call-in number, to unmute to speak, dial *6 on your phone. Also, prior to speaking, please announce who you are to identify yourself. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded. We ask that you use only the chat function to request to speak or to announce you are leaving the meeting so that we can track quorum. Also, in order to comply with the state open meeting law, attendance and votes will be done by way of roll call using audio, not by using the chat function. So if you could just announce your name and whether you're a voting member so that we can have roll, that would be appreciated. I'm Liz Wilson. I am a voting member of the commission.
I'm Mindy Bernstein, a voting member of the commission.
I'm Mike Edmonds. I am a voting member of the commission.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So we haven't officially made me chair. If anyone, I guess, if anyone wants to make a motion to have a vote on who the new chair is.
Yeah, I move that Liz become the chair of this subcommittee.
I second that.
There being no objection, and the only two members making that motion together, I'm the new chair of the subcommittee. Do we want to discuss a co-chair?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I nominate Mike as co-chair.
I'll accept the nomination.
Okay, I'll second the motion then.
Good. Yeah.
All right. So the second item on the agenda is a review of our shared language and roundtable edits as needed. I thought this would be a good way to have like a product from our first meeting. If you go to the commission website, there is shared language at the very bottom. Let me see.
Liz, you want me to stop sharing the screen and you want to share your screen that you're going to put up?
If you don't mind, let me just pull it up real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, can everyone see?
There it is.
Okay, great. So this is language that I came up with and that everyone agreed on, and like I think our second full commission meeting. And I just wanted to go over it and see if anyone wanted to make edits to this document. I'm going to go ahead and put a link in the chat. I don't know how, there we go. Okay. Okay. So the first definition, this is a definition I actually wrote after reading numerous authors on the topic. And the general consensus seems to be that equity is a strategy, that it has a goal of addressing people's needs based on their life and historical context. Prejudice, bias, and other social divisions disproportionately impact people's access to opportunity, requiring creative solutions for our community to live in a fair world where impacted people can recover and thrive. Good with that one? Okay. Gentrification ended up being super complex. So it's a process of neighborhood change in a historically disinvested neighborhood. That's the general definition. This change may include cultural change, income levels, demographic change, education level, neighborhood appearance and character, and more. Does anyone feel like there's anything missing from that that's really important to be included? Okay. The process is made possible because of historical redlining, concern about mixed race and mixed income neighborhoods, and the foreclosure crisis. The cycle of gentrification oftentimes looks like young low-income workers seeking affordable housing, young peers with more disposable income seeking the neighborhood, increased age groups with disposable incomes feeling comfortable with the neighborhood, banker investment, and then finally large-scale development. We feel like that's accurate.
I think that's right.
Okay. Displacement is different from gentrification. It is I should say it's a consequence of gentrification. So there are 3 types of displacement that were identified by the Uprooted project. There's indirect displacement, exclusionary displacement, and cultural displacement. Indirect means that basically the rent is increasing in your area because more people with higher incomes are moving there. That makes it so that it's harder for you to afford your rent. It's also harder to afford things like groceries because more specialty grocery stores start coming in. Exclusionary displacement means that future low-income residents are excluded from moving into the neighborhood for those reasons that I just mentioned. And then cultural displacement is basically a change in the landscape. Things like fences going up, people's houses all being painted the same color instead of kind of a rainbow look to the neighborhood. Things like local restaurants being changed out for, like, I think a really quintessential example is like the local vegan place owned by some hipsters, right? But it can look like a bunch of different things. It doesn't have to be exactly what I just described. So housing status actually comes from HMIS, which is Homeless Management Information Systems. That is a national system that's managed at the local level here in Pima County for people to get screened into housing based on their housing status. So they're stably housed. That would be someone who's not eligible to get screened into housing because they already have housing. Unknown would be someone saying that they don't know where they slept the night before entering the program, or when they're exiting the program, they don't know where they will be sleeping after exiting the program. There's imminent risk of losing housing, which is a very common category of housing status. So that means that within the next 2 weeks, that person is at risk of losing their housing. So something like someone's roof caving in, and they can't afford another deposit, and they don't know if they're going to get their original deposit back. That would be a situation that would put someone at imminent risk of losing housing. Then there's actively living in homelessness or being unhoused without shelter. That's a person or a family whose primary nighttime residence is going to be in a public place or a private place that is not designed for habitation. So that would be a car, would be a good example of that. There's also fleeing domestic violence or intimate partner violence. And that's a situation where someone is just in the active process of fleeing or attempting to flee a violent situation. They have nowhere else to go, and they lack the resources and supports in order to secure permanent housing. Unaccompanied youth is anyone between the ages of 18 and 25 who don't qualify as homeless, but are without like land ownership and meeting those other criteria. Basically, it's someone who doesn't have somewhere to land. Does anyone want to add, subtract, or change any of those definitions? Okay. The next one is going to be social determinants of health. This is a public health term, comes from the CDC. It was first mentioned, I think, sometime in like the 80s, maybe. So the social determinants of health are conditions in the places where people live, learn, work, and play that affect a wide range of health and quality of life risks and outcomes. Things that include social determinants of health are going to be whether an elementary school has air conditioning, what your commute to work is like. Do you drive? Do you take public transit? Do you walk or bike? What does it look like in your commute to work? Are there massive amounts of potholes? Are there abandoned buildings? Are there vacant homes? These are all things that evidence shows impacts the health outcomes that someone will experience, even though it is a symptom of social ills, I guess you could say. So Housing First, that's the name of our subcommittee. I think we should really scrutinize this one out of everything. Housing First is an approach to quickly and successfully connect individuals and families experiencing homelessness to permanent housing without preconditions and barriers to entry. Supportive services are offered to maximize housing stability and prevent returns to homelessness, as opposed to addressing predetermined treatment goals prior to permanent housing entry.
I'm seeing that last one doesn't make supportive services are offered to maximize housing stability to prevent returns to homelessness, as opposed to just, okay.
Does that last one make sense now, Mindy?
Yeah, it does.
We feeling good about this one?
I am.
Yeah, this is HUD language, right?
Yeah, it's from the Julian Castro memo that went out back in 2014.
Yeah, I would have just put a comma after homelessness just to pause the thought. I think is where it kind of ran on a little bit.
I get you. I gotcha. Okay. All right. And so the next one is substandard housing. This is something that I personally feel a lot of passion about, and I would like to set some of our subcommittee meetings about substandard housing. Substandard housing refers to residential spaces with structural and other physical deficiencies that do not meet health and safety requirements, thereby endangering the health and safety of residents.
I would add on to this. I know that the substandard housing also, for me, includes the neighborhood in which the housing is located.
Yeah, and that falls into that category of social determinants of health.
Okay.
So if we want to have some meetings that are dedicated to both, I agree with you, Mindy.
I'm going to force this on Ernesto because my mind is not working. Ernesto, we got 3 subcommittees. What are they again?
The affordable housing,
Okay.
segregated housing. And
Okay. All right. Because I'm thinking with the abandoned buildings issue, and I agree with you, Liz, just that I had some very intimate experiences with multiple properties today. And I'm wondering if maybe affordable housing really, well, there's a part of me wants to put it up under the affordable housing subcommittee only because though it may be affordable, it's not healthy. I don't know. I'm trying to force it into their subcommittees in my mind.
If we could circle back to that for one of our other agenda items, that would be great. But if you want to write that down as one of the topics that we discuss. So yeah, abandoned buildings refer to any unoccupied homes and other properties in disrepair that pose a hazard to the health and well-being of the community. Vacant lots are neglected and empty parcels of land in a neighborhood that are used for dumping litter and other waste materials. Opportunity zones, these areas have a lot of funding. Currently, they have more funding than other areas, I should say. Opportunity zones are economically distressed communities defined by individual census tract, nominated by America's governors and certified by the US Secretary of the Treasury. Under certain conditions, new investments in opportunity zones may be eligible for preferential tax treatment. So the housing stock or housing inventory, I got this definition from a text in 1951. That was kind of cool. The term housing stock and housing stock and housing inventory are defined as the total number of dwelling units standing at a given time. Affordable housing Keeping housing costs below 30% of income is intended to ensure that households have enough money to pay for other non-discretionary costs. Therefore, policymakers consider households who spend more than 30% of income on housing costs to be housing cost burden. Workforce housing is defined as housing affordable to households earning between 60 and 120% of the area median income. Permanent and supportive housing is permanent housing with indefinite leasing or rental assistance paired with supportive services to assist homeless persons with a disability or families with an adult or child member with a disability to achieve housing stability.
How are we going to tease that one out of housing first?
So
It's just,
permanent and supportive housing is specifically for people with disabilities and is a subsidy. Housing First is a way of getting screened into a subsidized housing program, and it's broken up based on those HMIS categories of fleeing intimate partner violence, being an unaccompanied youth, and so on. Does that make sense?
yes.
So income levels include area median income, federal poverty guideline, and self-sufficiency standard. The area median income is determined by HUD, and it establishes income limits for program eligibility. So that's that screening into HMIS. It's got 5-year estimates of the American Community Survey. So that's like part of the census. Federal poverty guideline is established by Health and Human Services, and it also determines financial eligibility for certain federal programs. That includes SNAP, WIC, and TANF, temporary assistance for needy families. The Self-Deficiency Standard is a project of the Center for Women's Welfare, and that's out of, I think, Washington State. It's budget-based instead of being a percentage. It is a percentage of income, I should say, but if anything, it actually establishes more so what income is needed in order to pay for rent and then also be able to pay for additional expenses. They use models such as an individual who wants to pay for a studio apartment or a 1-bedroom apartment and how they would be able to pay for groceries and have a savings account. They also look at family models such as a single parent with 1 to 2 children or a 2-parent household with 1 to 3 children and how much their income would be needed to meet those daily needs. So low income includes extremely low income, very low income, low income, and middle income. And extremely low income is less than 30% of area median income, and it also includes $0 income. Very low income is between that 30% and 50% of area median income. The first time I was going through this, I was like, why are the percentages getting higher? But it took me a minute and I figured it out. Low income includes households with incomes between 51 and 80% of that area median income. And I think that falls within workforce housing. Yes, it does. And middle income is between 81 and 100% of area median income. This isn't about classes, it's about income levels to afford housing specifically. This is from PCHIP. I think there may have been some revisions to PCHIP, and we may need to revise our definitions for that reason. Ernesto, do you know anything about that?
I don't think there have been changes, Liz. I may be wrong. But I certainly will ask if there have been.
I might be thinking of our housing affordability strategy instead of PCHIP. But regardless, it might be a good idea for us to use whatever is most up to date.
Sure.
I would say. So we also have, these are just illustrative from PCHIP. And then finally, the last definition we have is recovery. It's from SAMHSA. It's basically a four-prong approach to recovery, which includes health, home, purpose, and community. So based off of these definitions, is there anything that you think should be omitted, added, or revised?
Not that I can think of off the top of your head though. What's SAMHSA? I'm scanning through the document. I don't think they were spelled out. Maybe
It's
not.
it is the National Mental Health and Recovery Organization. Mindy, can you speak to, I don't remember what it stands for.
Substance abuse,
Yeah,
mental health,
Health.
services administration, or something like that.
you're right.
Yeah.
Yes, good job. Thank you. All right.
And they,
Okay.
they screwed things up.
We also previously set some subcommittee goals, but I know that we talked about some future agenda items. Do you guys want to do the future agenda items first and then review the goals, or the other way around? Maybe the goals will inform our future agenda items.
Maybe touch on the goals first.
Okay. I don't know where our goals are. Let me see.
Ernesto, do you have
Mhm.
our, is it on the agenda, our goals?
It's not on the agenda.
No.
It's on the HCD website, but I can't find it.
I'll look and see if I can find it. Boom.
Here we go. I'm going to share my screen.
Thank you, Liz.
You're welcome. Okay, can everyone see?
Not yet.
Okay. Oh, there we go.
Here we come. Yeah.
All right.
Oh, okay. I remember this.
Yeah. So for our subcommittee, we provide recommendations on policies to increase or accelerate available permanent and supportive housing, both short-term and long-term. The goals of affordable housing, Mike, since you brought it up, are to identify activities, levers, and tools that the city can leverage to increase momentum around affordable housing. So it sounds like developing or rehabbing current housing projects, identifying new funding opportunities for affordable housing, deliver a sufficient number, which is to be determined, of new affordable housing units within the city of Tucson.
I have something that bugs me about our goal, that
Yeah.
it's provide recommendations on policies to increase, and I'm hoping to expand it. Besides policies, it would be recommending strategies as well. Because it's
Do
not,
you want to make a motion to revise our goal, and maybe we can add some sub goals?
Yeah.
Okay. So what would you like the goal to include?
not sure how to say it. Besides policy would be new models or strategies, or because there's models that I've been researching that other cities are using that are phenomenal. That's not a policy, it's strategy. Or if there's another word for strategy, I think you know what I'm talking about.
Maybe recommendations?
Yeah.
Okay.
Provide
So,
recommendations on policies. So provide recommendations. So right now it's just on policy. So our goal is just policies, to recommend policies, and that makes no sense to me, other than hurry up, get going and get them going. I would like to expand our role to include ideas on permanent supported models.
so what if instead our goal would be to provide recommendations, comma, strategies, comma, policies to
Yes.
increase and accelerate available housing first. I don't want to say programs.
That-
Available housing within the housing first model.
Correct. Thank you.
You're
Now
welcome. Do you want to make that a motion?
Yes. I make a motion to make the changes to the goal that Liz suggested.
Can you say what those changes are, Mindy, or do you want me to say them?
Can you say them again?
Yeah.
Okay, to provide recommendations, comma, strategies on policies to increase / accelerate available permanent supportive housing, both short-term and long-term.
Okay, great. Can I get a second on that motion?
Yes, you can. I couldn't find the unmute. Yes, second.
Great. Thank you so much, Mike and Mindy. All right. Do we want to add any additional goals, or do we feel like this is good for the present and we can assess it in another 3 to 6 months?
So I don't see, you didn't add in strategies.
I can't type on this. It's a
Oh,
PDF.
okay.
Yeah.
We're good. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome. Let me go back to our agenda. So future agenda items, I know, Mike, you said that you wanted to look at those contributing factors to social determinants of health, like abandoned buildings and vacant lots, and then substandard housing.
It was, I believe it was abandoned buildings, vacant lots, and opportunity zones?
Yes.
Okay.
So my personal suggestion on this would be that we look at opportunities to make improvements to current and future housing first and permanent and supportive housing projects to increase the standard of housing and living. One that I always think about is the, I think it's called Safe Homes program out of HUD. And it is a standard of inspection that is used for both like Section 8, I should say housing projects from HUD, but also places that people move into with subsidies. So I think it would be a good idea for us to add that to our future agenda in some capacity. And I know that opportunity zones are being addressed by, what is that initiative? I can't, GPLET, the GPLET, GPLET, get that thing. And I think that Shay is working on that. Do we have any thoughts on what we'd like to do to address these other things besides the 2 items I mentioned? Mindy, you said there are some models you'd like to look at.
Yeah, I've been looking at quite a few. I mean, there's LA's doing tiny home villages. There's a program in Salt Lake City called The Village, and it's a model that's getting built right now. That's beautiful. I think it's more of a community than the stark 640 feet units that LA is putting up. And so the tiny home village concept is something that could quickly go up on abandoned property, I think. And quickly you have to put in all of the infrastructure and the utilities. That would go under vacant land. The abandoned buildings, we started talking about that in our last meeting. And I have to backtrack a little bit into how we ended up where we're at right now with so many people whom are homeless with serious mental illnesses and substance use disorders, and how they got there to begin with is another piece of discussion, maybe not for today. It breaks my heart when I see so many people ill on the street. And I think that many people have talked to me about some of the abandoned buildings that we have right now could convert into emergency shelter for people. And Liz, you had said it's not that easy. It costs more to, or was it Shay, that it costs more to rehab these facilities? And in my mind, you've got bathrooms in most of them. Some might have had cafeterias in them. And you just go in and do it. Figure out how it, yeah. So I'm very interested in that concept.
Okay, so it sounds like perhaps finding someone who specializes in building rehab to maybe speak to us and talk about those strategies, or have one of us put together a presentation of some kind about rehabs, and so that we can have some recommendations going forward. Would that be something that we'd like?
Yeah, I had a tab, somebody had sent me, there's a city, and I'll try to find the article where somebody took an abandoned mall building and turned it into a residential homeless, program for people to live in. I think that when we talk about rehabbing, I'm thinking about partitions and doing it quickly and moving fast rather than the more ideal living venue where people have their own spaces and kitchens and bathrooms. This is be an intervention that would be quick and fast and get people out of the heat or out of the elements, period.
Can I suggest that maybe we get one of the contractors who does work on converting motels into emergency shelter and transitional housing to maybe speak to us about what they would need in terms of support to begin doing that type of work in Tucson.
Yeah.
And that seems like a good kind of the direction you're going, Mindy.
Yeah, just for now. I mean, there's so many things that are on that, yeah. And then the tiny home villages.
Okay. If you know of anyone that would like to speak, or if you'd like to put something together, Mindy, I'm sure that Ernesto can add it to an agenda at some time.
I will try to remember that.
Mike, is there anything that you'd like to see as a future agenda item?
Not at the moment. I need to do some reading, compose my thoughts, and then throw some things at you.
Sure. Okay, great. Thank you. All right. Before we adjourn, what is everyone's availability looking like for next month?
Okay, that's a big, wide open question. I'm looking at my calendar. My calendar is it's always got stuff on it. It's just a matter of where can we do stuff. You both tell me.
I am looking at my academic calendar right now.
I'm going to be unavailable on the 19th, 20th, 21st, and 22nd. I'm going to Florida for my niece's wedding.
Well, Mazel Tov.
Mhm.
No, that's the Catholic side of the
Mhm.
family. That's,
Okay.
Still,
keep
still,
me with them.
Mazel is fine. May I suggest you hold your meeting toward the end of the month, so it'd be close to your full commission meeting, and your next full commission meeting would be after May, would be June 9th. So, and also may I suggest, if you can, keep your meetings on the same day of the week, the same time.
Okay.
But if you have to move them, then of course, move them, but
I am available Wednesday, May 25th at 4 p.m. That is the last Wednesday of the month,
mhm.
just like this Wednesday. Does that work for everyone?
Kinda. I'm going to be in Florida with family at 7 o'clock, so I will need to, we'll probably be having a dinner together,
Okay, yeah.
but I can break it. Yes, I can make it. This is more important.
With the time difference, it'll be 7 o'clock on the dot in Florida. So we could do a different week.
Not
We
for,
can do May 8th. You said you're out May 18th?
I'll be on the airplane, so let's do it on the 25th.
Okay. All right. May 25th at 4 p.m. I want to let you guys know that for the next meeting, I'm going to be working on getting a staff member from City of Tucson to review what housing subsidies are available to members of the general public, and how that screening process works, so that we're all kind of like on the same page of what's going on. I know one of the supervisors for the contracts department, or the head of the contracts department, so I'm going to be contacting her. And she's very thorough, and also someone that if you have any questions in the future, I'm sure she'd be willing to take them. But I would imagine that it will probably take up most of our time. Okay.
Okay.
Does anyone else have anything else?
No, it's 5:02, hard stop.
Yay. All right, we're adjourned. Have a good one, everyone.
Okay, thank you so much.
Take care. Thank